welcome back, everyone, to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. We're excited to welcome back for part two of our series here on Amazon Live with relationship expert and author Chris A. Matthews. You see him there. We're going to be talking to him not only about his company that has given us not only the books that we talked about in our first segment, but also workbooks as well. We're talking about Relationship Counseling Tools, LLC. We'll let you guys know some of the books that they have available, the services they offer, and of course, that you guys know how to find out more information. Chris, hello to you. Welcome back, man.
Hey, it's always a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me, Cyrus.
Hey, man, glad to do it. So I want to, before we start talking about Relationship Counseling Tools, LLC, I want to talk about what this experience has been like for you. We've been doing this dialogue now, not only here on Amazon Live, but also other platforms. What has it been like for you to be able to share not only the work that you're able to do, but also how you're able to provide help for couples?
So the main goal of the experience is just accessibility. A lot of couples, a lot of individuals, a lot of relationship partners don't have access to tools. So I've been fulfilled with the opportunity to just express the need for healthy relationships through the books, through the website, through these interviews with you. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback from couples and individuals and relationship partners alike who emailed me and said, we're glad you're doing what you're doing because I'm answering questions that people are thinking of but not expressing verbally.
Yeah. And I think that's it, Chris. I think, we talked about in our first segment about communication, right? We welcome you all who are tuning in. I should say, I mentioned Amazon Live, but also those tuning in on LinkedIn. I see you guys over there. Also Facebook, YouTube, hello to you for joining us live as well. But I think communication, that is really the heart of all of this, Chris. And we talked about in our first segment about this book, Finding Your Relationship Fix. We discussed that last week. Today, I wanted to broaden it out because not only do you have that book that's on Amazon, I have highlighted, you also have a series of workbooks. We're going to kind of run down 3 of them today. And they're published by your company, Relationship Counseling Tools, that is expressing care, how to guarantee your partner feels loved. They can see it there. Also maintaining safety, how to guarantee your partner feels secure, and making their voice count, how to guarantee your partner feels heard. And of course, this one ties in perfectly with communication. Before we kind of run through them, Chris, I want to talk about today first. Talk to us about how Relationship Counseling Tools LLC came about.
So Relationship Counseling Tools came about because during the pandemic, a lot of therapists, a lot of outlets for in-person services were not available. So Relationship Counseling Tools is an online platform that consists of not only the materials in the books, but also online courses. So providing accessibility to couples and partners who may be in rural areas or do not have accessibility to a relationship expert or therapist or counselor on deck, they can utilize Relationship Counseling Tools for those services.
And how did you decide what topics you wanted to cover, not only in the books, but also in the workbooks as well?
The topics come from some research articles that I was able to read, and it outlined all the different reasons why couples come to counseling. And I took all of those reasons. It was about 34 core reasons. I took those reasons and broke them up across 4 areas. And that's how I developed the content for the workbooks and the book.
Gotcha. Well, the first one we're going to talk about, Chris, is expressing care, how to guarantee your partner feels loved. They can see it there. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in the carousel. You guys can get it right now for $16.24 there on Amazon. I'm going to highlight it on the Amazon Live side. So I want to talk about that because, again, one of the things I noticed just briefly, just looking through it, Chris, before today's segment, it kind of goes to something we talked about last week, which was, for one, of course, that connection, intimacy. Talk to us about this particular workbook and what type of couples it might be for.
So that workbook dives deep into ensuring that you're understanding your partner's love language. It's based off of the research by Dr. Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. And I refer to them as love actions. In that book, you'll be able to identify if you're new to a relationship or if you've been in a relationship for a long period of time and you want to ensure that your partner's still feeling connected to you. That workbook's going to be a great opportunity to answer questions, go through some interventions and activities that will ensure you're communicating the love language your partner desires and not just the love you perceive they may desire. You're actually going right to the source for them to feel connected to you as a partner.
And what I noticed too, Chris, is not only are you able to share information, but also there's work to be done. Talk to us about
Yes.
that and how people can utilize this and not only getting the information, but also to be able to add their voice to the pages by doing the work and really being honest about where they are in their relationship.
Yeah. There are a couple ways that people learn. Through my work doing thousands of hours of couples counseling, I realized some partners like examples. So if you can read a case study or a scenario of how other couples have behaved, and those are real life examples of couples I counsel, that gives you some assurance that what you and your partner are going through is normal. So we want to normalize behaviors. The second piece is that you may not have the right questions to ask. So I provide relationship partners with those questions so you don't have to think about how the question's worded or what your intent might be. Last but not least, you're developing your own plans. It's one thing to have a conversation with your partner, it's another to apply the conversation. So the workbooks goes from hearing, discussing, now let's apply it so we actually get the benefits and the fruits of it.
Yeah. So let's go through an example here, Chris. I found one in the book that I thought would be an interesting one for us to kind of tackle. So again, for those who are just coming in, we welcome you guys over there on the Amazon Live side, as well as tuning in on the other affiliates. You all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents here. Today I'm joined again with relationship expert and author Chris A. Matthews. We're talking to him about the work he's been able to do through his company, Relationship Counseling Tools, LLC. But also last week we talked about the books. Today we're kind of diving into the workbooks. And this one is Expressing Care, How to Guarantee Your Partner Feels Loved. And the one I thought I would mention is found on page 37, Chris, Moving Past Resentment. And you start off on that one with the actual topic, moving past resentment. And briefly what you said there was, at some point in your relationship, you will become upset with your partner. And if you fail to process your hurt, resentment will begin to grow. Resentment blocks care because it is similar to a record or CD that is scratched and prevents the song from playing beyond a single point. I love that example. And then you give what you have, the 4 elements of resentment. And after that becomes the work. And the question I wanted to point out with this particular topic for us to kind of talk about, Chris, is this. Have you experienced ruminating thoughts of hurting your partner? So if a couple is dealing with this topic of resentment, they've identified what resentment is. And I love that analogy about the scratch record, right? Not being able to go past. How do you want them to be able to use a question like that in having the conversation with themselves?
The first step is awareness. There's sometimes where couples might have resentment and they're unaware that's even happening. And we'll lie to ourselves and say, I'm not mad, I've moved past it, but your partner will see through your actions that you haven't moved past it. So if you find yourself being easily triggered, the workbook gives you an opportunity to highlight that trigger and then communicate that to your partner so you and your partner both know that's still an issue of contention that comes up. So your partner has an identifiable marker and doesn't just think that everything's okay. And that's really the biggest component of the resentment piece, to acknowledge this is still a raw spot and it's going to take additional time to heal.
Love that. So again, that was an example from Expressing Care, How to Guarantee Your Partner Feels Loved. I have it highlighted there in the carousel there on the Amazon Live side. It's $16.24 right now. You all can get this workbook. I want to move on, Chris, to this one, Maintaining Safety, How to Guarantee Your Partner Feels Secure. Going to go ahead and highlight that one in the carousel there. That one is $23.40 right now for the workbook. Talk to us about this one and what our audience can take away from it, Chris.
That's the foundation of all relationships. In that workbook, you and your partner are going to start out the gate identifying what you guys define as cheating and what's not cheating. So that intervention or activity is one that I also do in our workshops, and it's a big hit because a lot of partners don't have that dialogue or discussion with their intimate mate up front. So you get the opportunity to circle behaviors that you feel that would breach the relationship contract. You also get the opportunity to have that dialogue around, what does your financial plan look like? Do you have any past trauma that we haven't processed? How was your upbringing and parenting, and how does that relate to how you respond and do things now? What are some of the boundary intruders we need to protect our relationship from? I define boundary intruders are people, places, things, and events that can get between you and your partner. So you get to identify and equip yourself with all the information to keep each other safe and secure in the relationship.
Yeah. I want to dive into that a bit, but I was really fascinated again when I was going through this, Chris, that again, you mentioned the financial element, but something you spend a lot of time on in this one. And I guess, depending, everyone brings their own, what they're dealing with. We talked about last week about how infidelity is one of those big things. This one, you spend quite a bit of time also talking about domestic violence. Is that something? You mentioned the pandemic. I've heard stats about this, but is that something you've also seen, that cases of domestic violence have risen over the years?
Yeah, so domestic violence, also interchangeably called intimate partner violence, has increased because whenever you think of something being in a pressure cooker, it's going to create more volatility. So the pandemic produced a pressure cooker with the quarantine, the pressure cooker from the working at home. So it induced more volatility. But before the pandemic, there was still alarming numbers and rates of domestic violence. So that's not anything new. Unfortunately, our society and the world, for that matter, has been dealing with domestic violence for a long time. In the workbook, it helps you identify the different scopes. So the power and control wheel is a major tool that's used to assess all of the different types of volatile behaviors and abusive behaviors. So when you think about verbal, financial, using children, isolation, you get to depict not only are those things present in a current relationship, but are you dating or with a partner who's experienced them in a past relationship and never got those traumas dealt with or processed?
Yeah. Yeah. I love the fact how you started this off. And I think this is a big thing for our audience. In this book, it's found on page 53. Again, we're talking about now the Maintaining Safety workbook. You say there is never an excuse or reason that is acceptable for intimate partners to be violent or abusive towards each other, period. And I think that's the thing. Hello to you, Deborah. We see you over there on the Facebook side. There are people though who rationalize it though, Chris. They will say, "Well, I have the time in this relationship. We have kids together. We have history. They didn't mean it." Not to paint everyone with a broad brush, but what do you want people to know about? Yeah, we all have our different pressure points, but what do you want them to know about the danger of being in a toxic relationship, especially one that can be life threatening?
So the goal of a clinician is always to do no harm. The same way that any medical provider is going to take the oath to do no harm. And when you look at domestic violence or something that could create the loss of a life, that's where you draw a hard line in the sand. So in the workbook, I do mention that we don't want to give any room for a partner to interpret that it's okay to physically harm another individual. I also want to be mindful that different cultures have different rules and regulations. I've counseled couples from other cultures around the world where it was acceptable to hit your partner. And in America, we don't tolerate that. When you look at police calls, domestic violence or interpartner violence police calls or domestic disputes is the number one call by the police. So when you look at the workbook, it's designed for a preventative measure, not just a treatment measure, meaning in the dating and courtship phase, if you recognize some of those behaviors from the workbook, it's an opportunity to get out. It's an opportunity to acknowledge that you don't need to try to fix a person that hasn't fixed themselves. So that's the real goal of the workbook, to help you prevent being in that cycle or situation where you are in fear for your life because you didn't know the signs that were presented earlier on in the relationship.
Yeah. And again, that is why I think conversations like this are so important. Again, that was Maintaining Safety, how to guarantee your partner feels secure. We have it highlighted there on the Amazon Live side. There, as you guys can see, it's $23.40. The last one we're going to talk about here, Chris, is making the voice count. I saved my favorite one for last. This is one I spent the most time with when I was prepping for this. How to guarantee your partner feels heard. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. It is $24.99 there on Amazon now. $24.99 for this one. So I want to talk about this because it goes to what we were talking about earlier about communication, that being one of the elements of this. Talk to us about this workbook and who it was written for, Chris.
So when you think about communication, it's really the blood flow of all relationships. Your ability to send and receive messages is how you transfer what you need and how to also meet your partner's needs. And when I do couples counseling, what helped me develop that workbook was people don't have tools or strategies to help them send messages. So going through that workbook, you get specific tools and strategies that help you send messages back and forth, so you're able to understand what you need and what your partner needs.
Chris, it seems like also the reason why I was interested in this one, I like the fact that you make it pretty clear that intimacy is not just physical. Talk to our audience about that, because you have a section in here, sustaining intimacy and connection, and you talk about intimacy in this way. You say intimate relationships are established when partners choose to build an alliance that stems from a mutual attraction to each other. The fondness that keeps couples together is called intimacy. Intimacy is the heartbeat that supports the life of the relationship and grows the connection between partners. Any act, event, or movement that facilitates connection can be defined as intimacy. Do you think that's also part of what's happened, Chris, is that people have misunderstood what intimacy is, so they don't realize all the facets of it to be able to give in a relationship?
Yeah, most people think intimacy is just sex. Mm-hmm. And I hear a lot of partners use that word interchangeably. They'll say, we haven't been intimate, and they're identifying the sex. In the workbook, I break down, there are different types of intimacy. You have physical intimacy. You have recreational intimacy, which is one couples don't think of. When you go out with your partner doing something fun, whether it be bowling or out to a movie or a museum or something that you guys can connect on, that's recreational. Going to work out together. You have intellectual intimacy, divulging into a deep conversation around a book or doing things that make you think. That's intimacy. So making sure that you have the whole scale. I think a lot of times with intimacy, we only do one dish, when intimacy is a whole array of a lot of different meals. It's not just one dish.
Yeah. Deborah says true intimacy is the heart and mind connection, so much deeper than anything we could experience in the physical. I think that's so true. And yes, which is why I think conversations like this are so important, Chris. And I'm so glad that we kind of built a foundation here on Amazon Live and talking about the books, right? But I also think there's another running theme even with these workbooks, because I think a lot of times people think, well, if I go see somebody, if I go see Chris, that's all I have to do. I don't have to do anything else. Is these workbooks also a way of getting them to understand that what they do is with you is one component, but they still have their own work to be able to do between themselves and with themselves?
I agree. The workbooks are designed to help partners maximize from therapy after the therapy's over. If you meet with myself, if you meet with another clinician, at the end of the day, you don't want that investment of therapy just to be it. The workbooks allow you to regurgitate back what you learned from the therapy. So it's an ongoing tool that you're using beyond the therapy. For those that might not be ready for therapy yet, you can use the workbooks as a standalone, because they're going to give you an opportunity to start those dialogues and conversations with your partner.
Very good. Again, everyone, relationship expert and author Chris A. Matthews has been our guest. Talk with us not only about his company, Relationship Counseling Tools, LLC, but also how he's been able to write books, provide help through these workbooks, and also through sessions with himself to be able to help couples in their relationship to be stronger together. I want to say today's show is being powered by BiteCool. You guys see it here. It's a great computer here on Amazon that is great for streaming like what we're doing now. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in the carousel there. If you guys are looking for something to help you guys with your work, or of course, even with gaming or streaming, this is a great laptop for you. It does come with Windows 10 Pro, but it also comes with a free upgrade to Windows 11 as well. Also, you'll notice there in the carousel, all of the books that we've been talking about today and the workbooks as well, all of those are available on Amazon. So I was highlighting them as I was discussing them with Chris, but you also will be able to go back through, whether you're joining us live or through the replay, just click on those books. You can be able to order your own copies as well. You'll see for the 2 books that we discussed last week, you'll notice my reviews are already there. I'll be also adding my reviews for the workbooks as well. And make sure you guys, once you get your own copies and you read them, are able to use them, go over to Amazon there and be able to share your thoughts as well. I know Chris will appreciate that. Chris, how can our audience stay connected with you?
You can stay connected with me by way of my personal website, chrisamatthews.com. Also on Instagram, Relationship Counseling Tools. Facebook, Relationship Counseling Tools.
All right. Hello to you, Ellen. Good to be able to see you. And Chris, definitely thank you. We're going to be picking this up next week, putting more of these things together. Hello to you, Elisa, over there on the Amazon Live side. Thank you so much for the follow. I do want to say, if you guys are new to us on Amazon, you'll notice there's a follow button either here in this corner or down below. Feel free to click on that button there to give us a follow. We're here 7 days a week with different programs like this with Chris, but also we have product reviews as well, and also demonstrations that we do as well here on Amazon Live. Feel free to be able to join us for those. That's what you see behind me there, some of the products that we've been able to bring you guys here on Amazon Live. So make sure you guys do follow us there. Chris, man, another great segment. Looking forward to next week, man.
Awesome, man. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Cyrus.
Hey, definitely. And we thank you all for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Again, Ellen says, what's the topic? I will replay. Ellen, today we're talking to relationship expert and author Chris A. Matthews. He's the author of this book, Finding Your Relationship Fix. You can see it there. I'll go ahead on the Amazon Live side and highlight it again for you guys over there. But he also has 3 workbooks that we were talking about today. There's a 4th one as well. But the 3 we were talking about today, Ellen, were Making Your Voice Count, How to Guarantee Your Partner Feels Heard. You can see it there. I'm getting some of that glare off of it. Also, Maintaining Safety, How to Guarantee Your Partner Feels Secure. And also, Expressing Care, How to Guarantee Your Partner Feels Loved. And all of those are on Amazon. Again, for those joining us on the Amazon Live side, you'll notice them beneath us in the carousel. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, thank you all for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. We'll be back with you guys next week. Take care.